A report emerged yesterday that a Chinese naval vessel carried out an aggressive maneuver resulting in a near collision when it changed direction and came within 150 yards of a US-American destroyer transiting through the Taiwan Strait, where foreign, including military vessels and aircraft, have the right of passage under UNCLOS. I would be grateful if you could please explain how this type of behavior supports China's desire for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and the wider region, and if you could also please explain why the PRC continues to refuse the United States' requests to engage in military-to-military communication and establish crisis communications, which seem incredibly important at this point in time. Thank you.
My question was similar. I wanted to point out also what took place in the Taiwan Strait yesterday. I also wanted to note that the dangerous maneuver was not only unprofessional, it was in contravention of the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, which is one of the more than 500 conventions that China has joined, which General Lee has mentioned. I think a collision clearly would put lives at risk. It would cause a major crisis that could escalate to a broader conflict. So I would also like to hear General Lee explain how such an accident would advance Chinese interests were it to take place. And isn't it necessary to resume the military maritime consultative agreement and other mechanisms of dialogue between the United States and China? You called for enhancing dialogue and strategic communication. Does that include dialogue with the United States military and the defense officials? Thank you.
You mentioned China wants to promote dialogue over confrontation. So my question is about the apparent disconnect between China's words and actions related to its maritime interaction with the Philippines and perhaps with others in the region. For example, when President Marcos and President Xi met in Beijing, they agreed to manage differences through peaceful means and to promote freedom of navigation and overflight above South China Sea, and reach consensus on the powerful resolution of disputes on the basis of the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. But in the same month, Filipino fishermen were simply fishing in Philippines' exclusive economic zone were harassed and driven away by China Coast Guard in violation of international law. The following month, your Coast Guard directed a military-grade laser into the Philippine Coast Guard vessel inside the Philippine exclusive economic zone under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. So while China is talking about dialogue, China's actions show confrontation. Thus, my question is, why is there a big difference between China's words and its actions? Thank you.
Generally, you meant and highlights the importance of equity and justice throughout your speech. I would like to know how you see justice and equity be applied in the South China Sea disputes, where China has competing maritime and territorial claims with Southeast Asian countries. And to borrow the questions that you eloquently raised in your speech, what are the rules and who make the rules? I would like to add, are these rules, or are they not anchored in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea?